I watched Danielle Hunter and reacted to his first press conference as a Texan. For those of you who don't know, the Texans press conferences, it's almost impossible to hear the reporters, so I read the questions off of a transcript and show Danielle Hunter's response. I'm Seth Payne, played 10 years in the NFL, 5 of them for the Houston Texans. As a defensive lineman, Danielle Hunter, much better pass rusher than me. First question Danielle got was about playing for his hometown team and coming full circle. What does it mean to you?
It's a lot. It's an honor to be able to come back and play in front of my family and all the people that I grew up with. I know they've been pretty excited about the news lately, and they'll be fine to be able to come to a game and see me play.
Yeah, that's fun until like all of a sudden, I don't know how many cousins Danielle has. Like, I don't know how deep they roll, but like the second and third cousins, or the second cousins twice removed, or the first cousins 3 times removed, it gets pricey. I know you're making $48 million guaranteed, plus another $1 million in incentives, but it gets pricey. I'm just warning you. Next question was watching from afar what the Texans were able to accomplish this past season. What's your assessment of the football team and the success that they had last year?
I mean, it was a big part of it, I remember last year during the playoffs, I actually came to the game against the Browns, and I liked what I saw there. So, and just the home feeling and how the guys were on the field playing together for each other and the way they swarmed the ball on defense, that was a big part of it. So I'm excited about that.
You know, that's one thing that really sticks out is just the way they swarm on defense. And I think as a defensive player, I watch that, like it jumps out of film at you immediately. And a lot of times it's guys that played the way DeMeco wants to. If you got a team that's predicated on, okay, we're going to have 4 guys rushing the passer, we don't want to have to blitz and do all that, then that means you're probably going to be playing a fair amount of zone, and you want guys to rally to the ball and just, what DeMeco calls it, the kill zone. When if somebody hits instead of calling it the soft spot in the defense, it's a kill zone. So like, oh yeah, guys are going to complete a few passes there. You know what we're going to do? We're going to come up and tattoo their kidneys. And so Danielle, he's a very soft-spoken dude, but he probably likes tattooing kidneys himself. Next question. This isn't your first time indiscernible. What were some things that you were looking for wherever you went?
I mean, anything that has to be dealing with contracts, I leave that to my agent. But the biggest thing was just having a good amount of guarantees. You play the game of football. You got to make sure you're guaranteed a lot of things. So,
like the fully guaranteed contract, it was driving me insane for a few years because players would say, "Well, we want fully guaranteed contracts," and I would say, Kirk Cousins has a fully guaranteed contract. Will you guys quit whining about this? Like all you have to do is negotiate like Kirk Cousins does. You take a shorter term contract, you get all of your guaranteed money, and then you're a free agent while you're still young. And that's exactly what Danielle Hunter is doing. That's what Laramie Tunsil has done. When he's done his extensions, he does them pretty short term because he knows that the salary cap keeps going up. And he knows that if he plays well, he's going to be rewarded for it. And he trusts in his ability. So kudos to you, Danielle Hunter and Laramie Tunsil, because people don't whine about the guaranteed contracts nearly as much anymore. All right, next question.
oh man,
So what are your impressions of defensive end Will Anderson Jr.?
that kid right there. I mean, he's exciting. Has a lot of tools. And I was with him earlier, and he just can't stop jumping. How eager he is to just go out there and just rush the passer together. Very good kid. I'm excited to just be able to go out there and teach him a lot of things that I know and help him become a better player, and same learn a lot from him also.
The one thing about Danielle Hunter that I think is going to be really good for Will Anderson is that Danielle Hunter is excellent at finishing the quarterback. So there are a lot of guys like Jadeveon Clowney is the prime example of a guy that could rush the passer really well, that would win a lot of pass rush downs. But those last 2 steps to the quarterback and getting the quarterback on the ground, it's eluded him his entire career. And part of it is he's a stiffer athlete for as athletic as he is. He's kind of stiff. Where Danielle Hunter, as he says later on in this interview, one of his old coaches used to call him Gumby, even though Danielle Hunter doesn't know who the hell Gumby is. But that was like the exact same comparison I made to Danielle Hunter this week earlier, was that he's like Gumby when he gets to the quarterback. Like he'll have one hand up in the air blocking the passing lane, and then the other hand down around like the legs of the quarterback, and somehow he uses like every little bit of his wingspan, and he's got a lot of really good bend at the end. So like Will Anderson is not stiff at all, but he's so hyper excitable that like you get that sack fever. And you remember early in the first half of the season, there were some sacks he missed where I think if he had settled down a little bit more, it's kind of like open field tackling. Like you can't be going in 99 miles per hour for those last couple steps. You kind of got to settle in and relax. I think that Daniell is incredible at that. And just almost by osmosis and watching and just, I think, talking and seeing Daniell, that's going to be helpful for Will Anderson too. Because that was one of the things Will got better at in the second half of the season, was just finishing the sack. Next question. What do you feel like your acquisition to the team? What do you think that you can do in terms of indiscernible?
I feel like the biggest thing about going into a football game is affecting the quarterback. And if you have a team that's able to affect the opposite team's quarterback, it gives you a better chance of winning the game. So, I like what I see here with the D-line, and I'm able to add my attributes and skills towards that and able to affect the other team's quarterback.
The only thing that I'm wondering about, I think DeMeco Ryans, when he signed, was probably expecting to be a defensive end opposite of Will Anderson, because then the Texans were trying to trade Malik Collins for Eric Armstead, and that fell through, obviously, because the Texans saw that they had this chance at Danielle Hunter. So now you've got three really good quality defensive ends, but Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are going to be the marquee guys. So I don't know if, with DeMeco Ryans, as long as he's cool with it and hopefully it's no big deal. Sometimes the starting stats get a little touchy because a guy, okay, there might be a guy who's a starter, but or he's a starter on nickel, but he's not a starter in base, and vice versa. Is DeMeco Ryans is he gonna get some more reps playing down a defensive tackle than you might think, just to get him out on the field as a starter? I don't know. There's going to be a really nice rotation with all of them. And I think there will be a lot of packages where DeMeco Ryans is playing defensive tackle in passing situations or versus certain types of teams. But it's a good problem to have. It's kind of like, I don't want to be like the Astros when we used to be able to complain about the Astros having too many good starting pitchers. How are you going to work them all in? They'll figure it out. We got a nice starting rotation of defensive ends. So growing up, were you a Texans fan, or was there a player you looked up to?
Man, when I was younger, I grew up in Mario Williams, Coach Ryans. I seen that era, and I've seen all the stuff that they went through. So I was a big fan of Mario Williams and what he was doing. And I try to model my game after that sometimes, but I realize, there's some things that he could do that are just not for me. So, but I grew up in that era, and I liked what I saw from that team.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, Mario's just he's kind of a comic book character in terms of his size, and there's certain things from a size standpoint that Danielle's not going to be able to do. But then Danielle's a better pure athlete than Mario was. I think the one thing that strikes me as similar between those two is that they're both really good at, even if they didn't 100% win the battle versus the offensive lineman, their limbs are so long that they're able to reach in and poke the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And they've got it takes a lot of hand-eye coordination to do that too. Danielle does a really good job with that, as did Mario. Okay, so this question is, what do you like from head coach DeMeco Ryans?
I like that he understands the players. He understands players and having them being able to go out there and play for each other as a one unit. He brings in the family aspect of playing football. It's not an individual sport. You got to go out there and play for each other. So that's one of the biggest part about it. And he understands his players, what we need and what we want in order to be successful.
DeMeco wasn't able to talk to Daniell before they threw $49 million at him. So I think DeMeco was inclined to be pretty cool with anything, but like DeMeco and wanting to create that atmosphere of almost like a more of a college type atmosphere. And I know, I know that Dalton Schultz got crap for saying the same thing in comparison to the Cowboys atmosphere, that it was much more of a college atmosphere with the Texans, but it's 100% true. I mean, it's 1,000% true. If you can create that and maintain it, that goes a long way. Sean and I talked about it this morning. The Ravens forever, for 30 years, have been a team that's known as just being way tighter than your typical NFL team. Because in the NFL, you got huge age gaps. You got some guys that have families, some guys that don't. Guys are living further apart from each other. There's not like an athletic dorms or like a Greek system where a bunch of with an athletic house or anything. So you got to kind of work at it. And I could see between DeMeco, CJ, and Will, that's the kind of stuff they care about, and that jumps out to players. You know, like I remember as a player, I just hearing certain things about the Ravens or the Bills and just like how tight knit they were. It was appealing. It was appealing to me. But so would $49 million. You know, you mentioned going to a playoff game, Texans playoff game. What prompted that? You said you liked what you saw. Please expand on that.
I was home and I didn't have nothing else to do, and there was a playoff game was going on, so I was like, all right, let me go check it out. And went there. Man, the way they were just playing together, you know, the excitement, everybody celebrating for each other, you know, that hit me. So I was just thinking during this process, I was just thinking about that, you know, just being home and just seeing the excitement that they had, and that played a big part of it.
I wonder the other thing too that we haven't really had a chance to see is, in a lot of ways, until recently, when really when Tom Herman came to Houston and just started recruiting the city of Houston so well, and then now obviously with Houston in the Big 12, is just like how enticing it is for there's so many athletes from Houston, obviously so many football players from Houston, that it is I guess it's kind of a new thing that it's a huge draw for some guys, either as college athletes or as NFL players that we saw with, like, okay, Jerry Hughes was the first version of this, where Jerry Hughes just flat out wanted to come back and might not have even played if it hadn't been for his hometown team. And with Daniell, I don't know, he could have gotten more money with a longer term deal elsewhere. So I can't say that it wasn't, there's a chance that he took less money to come to the Texans, but it was also just a 2-year deal. But yeah, I mean, he cited a lot about this being around family stuff and being back home, that it's hard to think that it didn't play a part.
Your high school coaches at Morgan Ranch, they talked about how you continue to give back, giving the jerseys that the players have a lot of pride in.
So he's asked about his track background, high jump, 400 meters, all that stuff. How much does that influence what you're doing?
I mean, I'm Jamaican, so it's in my DNA to run track. So it plays a big part of it, because playing on the D-line, you got to get out the blocks, get off, getting towards the quarterback. So it all translates over to playing football.
I wonder, did he partly spend part of his time growing up in Jamaica? So he said, I know you play defense, but how much does it help on the other side of the ball when you have a quarterback like CJ Stroud?
It means a lot, especially having a quarterback like him being able to be in the position that he is at such a young age. That's very impressive. It brings the team closer together, and it gives them something to play for.
Okay, the question was, what do you think you can bring to this defense?
That being able to just go every play. We'll have interior pressure this year, and I feel like that's a big thing. Just having me and Will on the edge and the interior pressure, that's going to be a massive increase from what I saw last year.
Massive increase from what he saw last year. We're taking he took a shot. That's a shot. Shot straight at Jonathan Grenard. I'm going to put that back. I'm going to send that up to Minneapolis somehow. See if they get that. You wore 99 with the Vikings. It was a special number. How do you anticipate wearing that, or having to change, or what? Obviously, the implication being that J.J. Watt wore number 99 here.
Man, 99. That's JJ's number. He's done a lot with that number. I'm not even gonna mess with it. So to be able to do what he's done with that number for the community and the Texans, I'm just leaving that under him. So I've decided to possibly go with the number 55.
So 55, that was Jerry Hughes' number, so that's a little bit of symmetry there as well. He was 94 at both Morton Ranch and LSU. I wonder if maybe he actually wants 94, but he hasn't talked to Khalil Davis about it yet, so he doesn't want to, come in and Debo him out of it. But like he's in a tough negotiating position. He might have to say he wants 55, because so that way Khalil Davis can read the paper. He knows that this dude just got $49 million over 2 years. The Khalil Davis might drive a harder bargain than Danielle Hunter wants. But 55 on like a tall, sleek athlete like him, that's kind of badass too, because it's got the OLB connotations to it. What have the conversations been like with DeMeco Ryans? And did you mention to him that you grew up watching him play?
Oh yeah, I sat with him earlier. We talked for about an hour. He was just talking to me about the game of football and, how it's able to impact, your family and everything around you. And, being able to just go out there and then just doing things the right way and just playing together as a team, that's big time, especially when it just feeds off of each other. that kind of energy feeds off of your teammates. So that's one of the biggest things he talked about. Just playing together as a unit, playing together as a team. There's never a there's never a single individual out there just doing everything by himself. Everything works as a unit.
The two things that he's talked about with DeMeco Ryans, a lot of it has to do with teamwork and atmosphere and all that stuff. Sean and I were wondering about this morning with the fact that the Texans went ahead and executed that Malik Collins trade. After the trade, straight up, Eric Armstead for Malik Collins fell through. The Texans go ahead and just send Malik Collins to the 49ers anyway. Two parts to that, which for a 7th-round pick, it's one of those things where, okay, you could argue about whether or not he should be worth a lot more than a 7th-round pick or whatever. The key thing is, all right, you still did need a defensive tackle. So like you were trading to try to get Eric Armstead on your team. Now all of a sudden, Danielle Hunter's in sight, but then you just jettison Malik Collins completely. I think the two kind of more on the human side of things than on the actual football strategy side of things might have been as simple as, the 49ers had a deal they'd agreed to with the Texans. You're in this moratorium where you can't actually execute it, but maybe the 49ers turn down other options or what have you. And then all of a sudden the Texans get this enticing bit of Danielle Hunter interest, and they got to go after they got to chase it. But you've kind of screwed over the 49ers if you've just pulled out of a deal that they were depending on. And like, just for the sake of being a good business person, regardless of any personal ties to the 49ers, you just don't want to become known as the team that bails out on trades. Like the Orioles, or a team like that that's just got a bad reputation in baseball for botching trades. You don't want to be that team. So there's that. And then the other side of it too is like Malik Collins. Like, you didn't just trade Malik. You weren't trying to trade Malik Collins for a draft pick. You were trying to specifically say, I like Eric Armstead way more than Malik Collins. So get Malik Collins the hell out of here and bring me Eric Armstead. Oh, it turns out we can't do that anymore. We're still cool, right, Malik? Like, it gets dicey. So maybe they should have waited. If that was part of the calculation, I think maybe they should have at least waited to see if they could get something different from Malik Collins. But I think it's probably more the not leaving San Francisco in the lurch. Regardless, we're going to ask Nick about this on Monday at 7:30 a.m. on Sports Radio 610. All right, last question. This is one where I give myself a pat on the back for having the right comparison for him. So there's a long list of stories in the past of nicknames that teammates and friends of yours have thrown at you. Does one stand out that you like the most?
Well, I've been called Vortex. I've been called Gumby. I've been called He-Man. But I feel like the biggest ones I like was from my first coach. He called me Gumby, Andre Patterson. So that was a cartoon before my time. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Neil.